Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for joining us for Day 3, the start of Day 3 of the 14th Annual Vermont Organics Recycling Summit, hosted by the Composting Association of Vermont and the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources, Department of Environmental Conservation. I'm Natasha Duarte, the Director of the Composting Association of Vermont. I'd also like to take a minute to thank A&R for their continued trust and partnership, and especially for their support and flexibility as we navigated the postponement and then new format for VORS this year. I'd also like to thank my board of directors for their input and support through the changes caused by the pandemic and helping me put together and plan the webinar series instead of the in-person event. I'd also like to give huge thanks to our VORS sponsors as they hung in with us as we sort of switched around our formatting. That's the Addison County Solid Waste Management District, AgriLab Technologies, Community Bank, Eco Products, Nature Cycle, Rich Earth Institute, Simplicity Engineering Solutions, the Trade Council of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Denmark, and Vermont Natural Ag Products. Just a quick promo, we're here right in the middle of our webinar series today, this morning, and then we have one this afternoon and another one tomorrow afternoon. So we hope that you can keep joining us for these. And now I'm just going to give a quick introduction to Emma Stuhl, who will be the facilitator for today's session on hauling innovation and entrepreneurial opportunities for the residential market. Emma Stuhl works with the team in the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation's Waste Management and Prevention Division to help all of Vermont recycle better, more, and reduce and manage waste. Before joining DEC, Emma worked as an ecologist, a program coordinator, and an environmental and sustainability educator throughout the Northeast. Thank you, Emma. With that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass it over. I'm going to try to stop sharing. There you go.
Thanks, Natasha. Can you see my screen?
Yes, you're perfect.
Awesome. All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to just give a very brief overview of the landscape here in Vermont around food scrap hauling, because we have some folks from beyond Vermont with us today, which is awesome. And then we're going to launch into hearing from our presenters directly about what their model is and what their experience has been. So in Vermont, let's see if I can progress. Here we go. In Vermont, the Vermont State Legislature passed the Universal Recycling Law unanimously in 2012. And this law started requiring the largest food scrap generators in the state to keep their food scraps out of the trash in 2014. So that's the hospitals, the big hospitals, the big universities, and it's been rolling down to smaller and smaller generators. And then this summer, on July 1st, 2020, food scraps were banned from the trash for everybody in the state. And so we've seen over the years growth in the food scrap hauling sector as more folks have needed to keep their food scraps out of the trash and have wanted someone to take them away and help them manage it. Because they have to, but also in terms of folks who are wanting to do it on a voluntary basis. So we've seen this sector growing and expanding, and especially around this summer, we've seen a big surge in small scale food scrap pickup services, which is awesome because we've seen a huge surge in demand because all these people now are saying, I want somebody to come pick up my food scraps. And fortunately, in some parts of Vermont, there's companies available to do that who provide a great service. A couple places in Vermont even have choice between some different models. And there's also a lot of places in Vermont where there are not as many services or there are no residential services. So then we strategize with people, okay, do you live in a neighborhood? Can you team up with your neighbors and share a bigger pickup and split the costs? But overall, we're always excited when there's more services so we can have more of that demand be met. So yeah, great to hear some of those stories today. In Vermont, also, every town is part of a local solid waste management entity. It's just good to know about this because if you're thinking about becoming a food scrap hauler, some of the districts have permits that food scrap haulers need to get. And then some of these districts run compost facilities, so that's just useful to know as you're thinking about what are you going to do with the food scraps you pick up. And then some of these districts have different outreach materials and handouts and flyers that might be useful in your work. And I would say all of these districts do publicity for their local food scrap haulers, because they also have residents and businesses calling them and saying, what do I do with my food scraps? And then they can say, well, here are the services that are in our region. So it's really great to connect with them. And then our team in the Department of Environmental Conservation works statewide, and we interface with the food scrap haulers in three main ways. One of them is that food scrap haulers, like all solid waste haulers, need a permit in the state of Vermont. And you can go to our website, vtrecycles.com, click on the haulers button, click on another haulers button, and you'll get to this page where you can get started for filling out that paperwork. We also do a lot of publicity for food scrap haulers. We maintain this list of Vermont food scrap haulers. If you ever have updates for it, or if you know a new business is launching, please let us know so we can add you or so we can make edits. And we distribute this list widely to individuals and to businesses and to institutions. And we use it as a reference also if we're providing technical assistance. If somebody's calling us and saying, what do I do? What are my options? We might say, where do you live? What are you looking for? Okay, from what we know, there's these three companies and here's their contact information. And we're up to 4 pages now, so that's very exciting. There's definitely room for more. And then we also on our website have a lot of free resources. So I would say like assistance is the other way we interface with food scrap haulers. There's the official Vermont green apple core logo. We've got this fridge poster, bin signs, inspiring posters. And on vtrecycles.com, these resources are mostly either on the food scraps page, there's a button for food scraps, or if you scroll down, there's a download materials button. But in general, if there's a need that you see, either whatever your role may be in the state where you think, oh, it would be really helpful if this material existed so that outreach people or that haulers could use it and distribute it widely and it could lift everyone in the state up, please be in touch with us. We're looking for the ways to try and just move us all forward and make it so that everybody doesn't have to recreate the wheel themselves. On that vein, another example of help that we provide is we worked with Vermont Fish and Wildlife to put together this list of strategies for keeping bears uninterested in food scrap totes. And I would add garbage also is a challenge sometimes. So if you're working in bear country, definitely check this out. And there's a lot of great strategies here. And I'll also just make a plug that if your customer or you are using all these strategies and it's still not working, to please reach out to us or your local game warden for more assistance, because we want to just make sure if there is ever a problem that it can get addressed. But really, I think like any solid waste management, prevention of issues is the best strategy. And if you know somebody who's thinking about getting into food scrap hauling, we do have this really high level intro to food scrap hauling tips and tricks and sort of like, what do people do? Handout also on the bottom of the food scraps page. And so that is the whirlwind tour of Vermont's food scrap hauling landscape. And so I will stop sharing and ask Deborah Darby to pull up her slides, and I will introduce Deb. So,
Okay.
Deb, okay.
Hi there. Thank you.
Okay, so let me just give our folks an intro. So Deborah Darby's the manager of Organic Sustainability Solutions with Tetra Tech, where she's involved with developing, planning, permitting, and the operations of Organics materials management systems. And Deborah has 14 years of organics experience in the solid waste industry and is a certified composting professional with a reputation as a leader in her field. She has an extensive background working with organics and compostable materials and driving product stewardship. And then in addition to all this technical expertise, Deb also has 20 years of experience in marketing and has served as a strategic advisor in the public and private sectors. So thanks so much, Deb.
Emma, thank you for that very kind introduction, and just want to make sure everybody can hear and see my screen's full. So I'll just kind of launch in if you don't mind. Thank you for having me as a presenter as part of this panel on hauling innovation and entrepreneurial opportunities for the residential markets. As Emma said, I've been an organics recycling consultant for a number of years, and back in February, I joined Tetra Tech as their organics practice lead for the Solid Waste East team. Tetra Tech is an environmental engineering and solid waste consulting firm, and we have a lot of experience in building out organics infrastructure and working with counties and municipalities on solid waste planning. So I'm going to just launch in a little bit, talk about building out organics infrastructure, which is, what we're all here for today. And, a major challenge in securing a commitment to a new paradigm of waste management, which is precisely what organics diversion involves, is that it requires a certain amount of time and effort to educate stakeholders in the environmental benefits of organics recycling. Implementing an organics recycling program requires the source separation of organics by both residents and commercial entities. And all of these activities require ongoing communication and education. As both public and private sectors look for ways to reduce carbon emissions, there's a growing interest in organics recycling programs and composting operations to help with carbon sequestration. For states and municipalities looking to implement zero waste strategies, organics is the primary material to divert from the solid waste stream. And even for locations that have already addressed recycling or made other progress, this is often the largely untapped area. So organics material management is so important, and it's so exciting to see it growing, and policy really does drive it, but it's so exciting to see it grow nationally, and in particular here in the Northeast. So when we talk about organics recycling, it is a closed loop system, and it does begin with education, and I think we all know how important education, training, and ongoing communication is. But without the source separation of organics and having a local organics recycling infrastructure, also having the opportunity to drive the market for compost use, as well as other renewable materials like biogas. We have to really ensure that we have these strong pillars to keep the organics recycling programs ongoing and sustainable over time. So I just want to kind of share, those are kind of my thoughts. And also, I don't get to use the EPA hierarchies, the pyramids very often, but I think this is quite appropriate just to touch base here today. Both the food recovery hierarchy and the waste management hierarchy, source separation, is at the top, but recycling and composting are also very high in the priority of these hierarchies. So again, the work that we're all engaged in with organics recycling is very, very important work. So I'll just kind of launch into why I'm presenting today, and that's the Organics Co-Collection Program, which was pioneered in Minnesota. And for full transparency, when I was an independent marketing and organics recycling consultant, I was hired by the company in Minnesota, Organic Solutions, to help them build their program, build it out in Minnesota, and then build it out nationwide. So I know a lot about the efforts that have gone into the design and build out of their co-collection program. So let me just start about their long journey. Back in 2002, Hennepin County in Minnesota, they had a town meeting because they wanted to get their arms around starting an organics pilot, because everyone knew that to reach the state's 70% recycling rate, that they needed organics to be considered a recyclable material and start implementing the programs. And at this town meeting, really only two interested parties raised their hands, and that was the City of Wayzata and Randy's Environmental Services, a private trash hauler located in Minnesota, which is also the parent company of Organic Solutions. But as early as 2002, they started to work on what a pilot could look like, and really what evolved over a decade of research and development is the present solution in Minnesota called the Blue Bag Organics co-collection method. But I'll talk to you about how it became Green Bag as I get through these slides. But again, it's just a lot of research and dedication, both from the municipality and from the hauler's perspective. There was that desire to get an organics program started. So a lot of people, were invested in this from the get-go. So part of the research and development was, looking at what was already available. And that was that dedicated organics route, meaning that third truck and that third cart at the road. And it really wasn't very feasible. Dedicating a truck, trying to hire a driver, all that windshield time economically wasn't feasible. In addition, the routes were very scattered. So the folks at Randy's, wanted to think about, well, what could we do a little differently? And the idea was to kind of build a program around a compostable bag that could collect the food waste and be placed in the same cart. And that would, get rid of all the other high cost and inefficiencies of a dedicated truck route. So there really wasn't a commercial compostable bag already on the market that was durable enough to withstand the compaction in a truck. So the team decided to design their own bag. And the City of Wayzata was very receptive to trying out a new program. Residents volunteered to be the neighborhood cheerleaders and really get involved to make this program work. And as the pilot kind of got started, again, a very good participation and very little contamination because people really wanted to participate and to do it the right way. And then, the bag itself that they designed, Randy's Sanitation designed the bag so that it could withstand all of the touch points, meaning from, filling food waste inside the home, getting that bag to the cart, and then having the cart emptied into the truck, and then having the bag, separated and delivered to a composting facility. Literally 4 touch points. That bag had to maintain its integrity, and certainly that bag went through third-party testing, in addition to being vetted by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency that the program and the bag itself did exactly what it was marketed to do. And then, of course, the bag BPI certified for the biodegradability and compostability at a commercial composting facility. So again, a lot of dedication went into the R&D of this program. And then officially in 2012, the co-collection program was launched. It started with the City of Wayzata, but neighboring communities like Medina in Minnesota and some other, metro communities signed up for the program, which was voluntary. There's no mandate for residential organics at that in 2012 in Minnesota. The program was designed, again, from input with residents and from the hauler's perspective, designed to be very easy for the end user. Food is collected in a bag. Residents can just tie like a ponytail styled knot in the bag, put it in the same cart, and on the regular trash day, the cart's at the curb and the hauler, does the rest. So it really, first of its kind type of program, again, pioneered in Minnesota. And then over time, the program, changed to the green bag because, green, everybody gets it. Green is the organics, green is the compostable bag. And today, over 48 communities in Minnesota use this co-collection method, and more are signing on. And then, as I mentioned, outside of Minnesota, the green bag program is how it's known. And then Organic Solutions became the spin-off company from Randy's to market this program so that other haulers and other municipalities nationwide can work with a dedicated team called Organic Solutions that can help implement the program nationwide. So I think what's really cool that I just want to share, they've been able to get a patent on the program. And again, that's because of all the research and development that have gone into it. And it just makes it easier for Organic Solutions to share this program and provide training and the right bag to make this program successful. I guess just a little bit of technology that I can share with you. So when Randy started this program in Minnesota, Randy's also operates their own mixed waste material recovery facility. So the co-collected routes, the trucks would come into their mixed waste facility, and the material would be loaded onto their tip floor, scooped up and put on a conveyor. And they started with a semi-annual sort where staff would have to remove the compostable bags from the rest of the solid waste. And then over time, they fully automated the sorting process with a waste robotics robotic arm. In that lower picture there, you can kind of see the robot arm seeing the bag and lifting it from the conveyor. And I do know that they have a 99% success rate with that robot moving out the bags. So this is a much larger metropolitan area where they're handling a lot of waste. But again, this program was designed to make it very easy to roll out a curbside organics program and to make it cost effective. So that link, will take you to that video. If anyone's interested, I can share that at the end of our presentation. So what was really cool, Pope Douglas Solid Waste Management in northern Minnesota, located in Alexandria, they approached Organic Solutions, and I actually got to work on this particular project. Rural Minnesota, they wanted the same kind of organics program that the metropolitan and suburban areas had. And so they wanted to offer the co-collection method to their small rural communities that they service. They promoted the information on the website, and we worked with them on the planning to phase in a pilot for these 3 communities: Osakis, Glenwood, Elbow Lake. And we started with the city of Osakis. I actually presented at the city council meeting, met with the mayor and the city councilors, and everyone voted in favor to start a co-collection pilot in rural Osakis. Pope Douglas Solid Waste Management, they provided a grant, so they provided the bags and marketing and education and support information to their residents. And the plan was to do a 2-year phase-in to get residents up to speed with doing source separation and the collection process. Some of the pilot goals was a 10% participation, which is approximately 60 households, building out neighborhood champions, collecting metrics, and providing education, and then trying to collect some feedback from the pilot residents so that any questions or challenges or any, I'll just say hiccups, can be kind of smoothed out to make it successful as further phase in over time. And that was conducted through a phone survey. So Pope Douglas, they were very excited about promoting the program. They did newspaper ads, they did door hang tags, and within the first week of the promotion alone, they reached their 10% enrollment goal, and they had 71 residents already signed up for the program. Once people signed up, they then would receive a welcome kit, a welcome letter that explains, what is considered organics for composting, what's not acceptable, refrigerator magnet, some customized brochures, information, on who to contact when you need help, FAQs. A lot of this information I know the state of Vermont provides. So again, beginning with education and communication makes programs very successful. Another tool that we worked on was a team communication calendar, and this was to support the phase-in or the rollout, working with the 3 different communities when the facility that's taking in the mixed waste material to sort out the bags, when they can expect to have certain routes coming into the facility. So we just did a very simple calendar team communication tool that was really effective for both the municipal leaders and for the haulers. And then, just metrics. When the program, first got promoted through to the first residents signing up, you can see how quickly people wanted to participate. Osakis was phased in first, followed by Glenwood, and then the town of Grant. I don't know how they got onto the program. It was supposed to be Elbow Lake, but happy to have Grant, the town of Grant, in there. And then multiple drop-off sites for residents who wanted that service as well. So going from ground zero, where there was absolutely no organic service, to providing both a curbside and drop-off really was beneficial for these rural communities to get engaged with organics recycling. Pope Douglas has also a very similar mixed waste facility. So their staff was already used to pulling out cardboard or used to pulling out bulky items. So when Pope Douglas trucks came in with the co-collected material, Organic Solutions staff came on site to help train the Pope Douglas staff on how to see the food waste compostable bags and pull them off of the line and drop them down into the chute. And the food waste filled bags would be collected in the roll-offs and delivered to the composting operation, which was also on the Pope Douglas solid waste site. So they had all of their operations physically on one site. So it made it really easy for Pope Douglas and their staff to learn how to see the bags, how to sort, and then get the bags to their composting operation. And one thing that I also just want to point out in the image here with the food waste bags, they've gone through, curbside collection, the compaction of the truck, and then separation. And now they're really are still in great shape to get to the compost. What I mean is that all of the food waste that got collected from the kitchen is going to make it all the way to the composter. So the integrity of the bag really does hold up. Let's see, so Vermont is now starting to do co-collection. It's starting up with several independent haulers are offering the co-collection as a service to their customers. Independent haulers are smaller hauling companies, so they're actually sorting the compostable bags at their transfer stations and then bringing the Organix filled compostable bags to the Wyndham Solid Waste Management District, to that composting operation located there. And then I'm also happy to share that the towns in Vermont launched their Organix program on July 1st. And they're providing bags to residents. And again, the haulers are bringing in the compostable bags to the Wyndham composting operations. And I just also noted there that Able Hauling is one of the independent haulers that are offering the co-collection method to their customers. So I'm getting close to my end here. I just want to take a quick drink of water. Municipalities and counties are addressing the impacts of organic waste by, putting policies in place, implementing source-separated organics programs to divert organics from landfills to composting operations and anaerobic digestion. And the main challenge is, how do you do it affordably? How do you design it to be convenient for the end user? And to ensure that it's resilient and sustainable over time. And there's obviously a cost to organics, you know, the containers, the collection, the processing, and then getting the finished compost back into the market. You know, there's issues, as I mentioned earlier, regarding, you know, route density efficiencies, rural communities, seasonal collection of yard waste, voluntary, and in some states like Vermont now mandatory. So there's a lot of, you know, varying degrees of, you know, how a program should be managed or can be managed depending on where you're located. But I think the interesting thing about this co-collection program is that it does address these issues, and whether it's a subscription service that's provided by a municipality or by a hauler, or a program that is offered to the throughout the municipality as a opt-in program where people need to sign up for it. Everybody has access to it, and they just need to sign up for it. Whether it's subscription or, you know, community-wide, this program has been designed from the bottom up to address municipality and hauler needs. And I always like to end on how important the benefits of composting and compost use. And I think everybody on the call today really gets it about how important it is to bring the health of our soils up to levels that can sustain life, both human and plant life, sequestering carbon dioxide, managing pollutants and runoff, making sure that our waterways there's beneficial use of compost to protect our coastal and our riverways, and reducing the, you know, degradation of our ecosystems by human activities that really affect the climate change. And the one thing that we can all do locally is to divert organic materials from the solid waste stream and recycle and be involved with composting. These are ways that we can locally, regionally, and nationally protect human and environmental health. And by all means, if, you know, contact a consultant, I'm here to assist, whether it's involved with getting a recycling program started, permitting, development, or design of composting facilities. I'm happy to assist. I'm very passionate about this work. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening to my presentation today, and I'll turn it back to Emma. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deborah. We just had one question so far, and Jen, you're up next, so you can start sharing your screen. A question, Deborah, is how much of a budget should be directed towards marketing? And maybe the other folks can answer this again at the end also.
Why don't I hold that then to the end, if that would be okay, Emma?
That sounds great. So
Thank
next, I'm gonna introduce Jen Murphy with Willow Tree Community Compost. Jen lives in Wilder and does a lot of things. Jen's a mom of 2 little ones, a wife, an early childhood and outdoor educator, a community gardener, and a compost enthusiast. She grew up in a composting family where she was the household compost queen, but didn't truly appreciate the value of compost until working on farms after college. And on those farms, she fell in love with the process of taking those materials that are often considered waste, mixing them, and watching them turn into a nutrient-rich soil amendment. And then working at an after-school program in 2006, she got middle schoolers excited about compost by partnering with local restaurants, picking up their food scraps and turning that together into compost for gardens. And so now, after some moves and different jobs and starting a family, she decided the time was right to take her love of compost to the next level, and has started Willow Tree Community Compost. And through that is working to make the Upper Valley a more sustainable community. Thanks so much, Jen. Take it away.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm excited to be here and share the willow tree story with everybody. So we'll get started. So first, kind of my why. I guess Emma touched a little bit on kind of my history and background, but kind of the timing was after having my second child, I really wasn't ready to go back to work and was really thinking of other options, and the idea of a compost business kind of had come back around, and it really seemed like a great time. I'd be able to start the business, be able to continue to spend time with the kids, and it just all of it came together, being able to turn a passion into a business and kind of teach the girls about, you know, taking care of the earth and making a positive impact in the community. So it all came together, and you'll see that they've been a part of the whole process, and it's just been a fun kind of thing to do together as a family. And I'm excited to see the company grow and kind of evolve as the kids grow too. So that's kind of the why I started. What Willow Tree Compost is. We're just a small local curbside pickup company that services the Hartford, Vermont area. Our goals are to make composting simple and accessible to residents by offering a couple different options. We want to build community around kind of closing the food waste loop, so we have member events to kind of offer them opportunities to get together and do something in the community, as well as make connections between the members and businesses that are sustainable minded as well. And we want to keep the nutrients in the community, so we partnered with a local farm and community garden, as well as giving compost back to members so that we can just keep growing more food for our local community. So to get started, we also did a pilot program. It was kind of hoping to get the kinks out before really going live in the community. So the girls and I walked around the neighborhood, passing out flyers and talking to people about composting. So to get ready for the pilot, we built a system in our yard, a simple 3-bin system with pallets and hardware cloth and 2x4s and some scrap wood, and we were ready to take on some food scraps. I also purchased a trailer to pull behind the Subaru and be able to handle hauling, you know, much bigger things and more buckets. I bought some 5-gallon buckets, and we got stickers with the logo to use. And the pilot program ran for 2 months and had 10 participants right in my neighborhood. We offered weekly pickup. And then throughout the 2 months, I was able to experiment with kind of different options. We tried out using compostable liners, and then we also had the option of no liners. We did different pickups, so either weekly or bi-weekly. And I kind of experimented with my collection system, whether I would do a bucket swap out on the route or dumping into a larger bin and kind of just wiping the bucket down. And then at the end of the 2 months, we had a gathering and got some feedback, and everything seemed pretty positive, so we decided to go for it. So moving forward, I was able to really start planning and brainstorming and looking for resources, and it worked out that Kat Buxton from Grow More Waste Less was offering a farm scale composting workshop, and I went to that, and it really was so informative, and that made me really want to move forward and with this idea of composting and partnering with the farm. I also was on the websites. The Vermont Community Garden Network had great resources, and the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. And James McSweeney's book was a really great resource as well. I found out about SCORE mentors since I really didn't know much about starting a business. And there's an Upper Valley SCORE chapter that gives you a business mentor that was really great. So I was able to kind of figure out all the stuff that I needed to do to get ready. So email, website, bank account, some way to be able to take payment. I registered my trade name, got a hauling permit, business permit, liability insurance, all the stuff that I really hadn't thought about at first. And so the next thing was starting to market and really put the word out there that we were doing this. The first thing, word of mouth through our members, even just the 10 pilot members, really helped. I did every door direct mailings through the post office, and that helped really like narrow down certain neighborhoods that I wanted to service. I was hanging flyers all around town, and I was working on getting a social media presence through Instagram and Facebook. And I also had a great opportunity last November to participate in a crowdfunding campaign. It was through the local crowd and Vital Communities, and it was an opportunity for local businesses to kind of share a project that they're doing that's benefiting the community. And it was really great. We raised over $4,000 and gained a bunch of customers through the exposure, and it also helped really solidify the partnership with Sunrise Farm, which I'll get into a little bit later. And it was a fun project. It was rewards based, so we came up with rewards for people that donated, and these are some of the upcycled hats that we put our patch on, and it was kind of a fun project. So 14 months after our pilot, here we are. We are kind of upped or added a couple more services. We're still doing the 5-gallon bucket curbside pickup. We now have a drop-off option, so you can dump your own or do a bucket swap, and that is helpful for people that are outside of the service area, or a lot of my neighbors that are really close, and it's easier for them to just come walk right over. And then I also offer now a 32-gallon bin weekly pickup. Kind of the customer stats, but predominantly people choose the bi-weekly option. There are quite a bit of drop-offs. It's been pretty popular lately, and still weekly, and then some 5-gallon shared bins. The mix of residential, mostly residential, and then some commercial and offices, and some condos and apartments. And then our kind of the biggest thing is our partnership with Sunrise Farm. And so since we started last May in 2019, we've diverted 17,590 pounds of food scraps from the landfill. So that's pretty exciting, and we're now currently doing about 1,000 pounds a week. The Sunrise Farm partnership, I'll talk a little bit about that. So Sunrise Farm is located in Hartford on Route 5. It's owned by Chuck Worcester. He's been there since 1999. They do vegetables, meat, eggs, maple syrup, and honey, and has a 350-member CSA. And I've been a CSA member for a few years and approached Chuck last spring and just kind of throwing out the idea about this composting idea and if he'd be interested in taking food scraps. And he kind of jumped on it and was really excited because he always needs more compost. So it worked out, and he ended up going forward to do this, get some grants for an on-farm composting facility to really help boost his compost capacity. So he was able to get funding from the crowdfunding campaign, as well as a grant from the Working Lands Board. And it's for a large structure, so it's a concrete slab, and then with the roof, with solar panels on the roof that will pretty much run the whole farm. And then there's three large compartments that will be for mixing. There will be some aeration, and then the curing. He was able to consult with James McSweeney and Kat Buxton to help kind of really fit the facility to his needs, what the farm needed. And so he applied for a medium compost facility permit, and that gives him the ability to take 130 cubic yards of food scraps per year, and hopefully produce about 200 cubic yards of finished compost. So it's they've poured the slab, that was last week, and then the beams are being made currently, and will hopefully be going up in the next couple weeks. We're really excited to get it finished and start using it. Another connection we've made in the community is with the White River Community Garden. It's in Radcliffe Park, in White River, and we've been involved for a few years doing some children's programming there, but just this spring we built a bin for them so that all the members are able to bring their food scraps to the community garden to process there and make into compost for the garden. And we've also donated a bunch of finished compost this spring. And I encourage my members to be involved and volunteer at garden cleanups and different events at the garden. So that's been a nice partnership as well. So just a few perks of being a member and being things I can do as a small food waste company is we do the compost share back. So the compost that I produce in my 3-bin system will all go back to members or to the community garden. And I kind of keep up doing email updates of kind of what's going on. I just do pictures and any reminders of things that the members might need to know. And then it's nice to just have the flexibility. If someone misses if they don't put their bucket up, they can either email me, and if I'm still driving around, I'll come grab it, or they can come drop it off at the house if they want to swap out a bucket. So it gives them some flexibility in service. And then they get the benefit of really supporting the community. So the whole farm to table, back to farm ideas that what there would normally be waste is now really helping a local farm and community garden to grow more food. So I was going to just touch on some of the challenges over the first year of business. And so definitely contamination, really trying to get all the plastic non-compostables out of the bins because they'll just end up on the fields. And so it's been a lot of education and reminders, and as the July 1st ban was really great. It was a huge boost to my members. It also was a big boost in contamination, and I think it's just brought on a lot of newer composters that need it's a learning curve. So we just need to keep doing outreach and education to get everybody more on board. And then animals, we have a kind of resident black bear this summer who's been hanging out. This is a picture right across the street at a neighbor's bird feeder, but so far they have not been interested at all in my compost bin. So it just kind of is a good reminder of really managing it correctly, keeping it covered, keeping the smells down. And so far it's been so good. We haven't had any bear issues. We've had a few smaller animals, but nothing too bad. Trying to make sure I always have enough carbon for my bins as well as the community garden. And now that I'm doing the 32-gallon bins, it's nice to offer some sawdust. So wood chips are pretty easy to find, but we've had a challenge. It's been a little challenging getting a source for sawdust or some other carbon sources. And then looking into dealing with the winter again. This past winter, I didn't have so many members that I was able to wash buckets in my kitchen sink, and now it's grown enough where I don't think I can do that many in the sink, as well as the 32-gallon bin. So working towards figuring out a washing situation throughout the winter. So that's kind of the next big project I'm going to undertake. So kind of this is, looking towards the future and figuring out where to go next. So we're definitely want to increase our food scrap capacity and really help the farm produce as much finished compost as possible. So get our food scraps up a little bit more. I want to offer some educational opportunities, maybe an internship, or just offering presentations for schools and composting programs at schools, and work towards creating a network of composters, haulers, just in the areas to really offer the residents some options and the education to know what ways they can do to just kind of increase the amount of people composting. And then maybe perhaps look into some other services such as compost tea and vermicompost. So that's it, and that's our story. So thanks for listening, and we'll look forward to questions.
Thank you, Jen. We did have one question specifically for you. Did you say which bucket option was most and least time consuming and effective from your experiments at the beginning when you were trying liners versus swapping buckets versus dumping and wiping and putting back?
Yeah, so right now I'm doing the bucket swap. So I have a clean bucket and I just switch it out en route with a, so I take the full bucket and then I switch it back with the empty bucket. And is that the question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Well, thanks so much. All right. So next up, we have Declan and Greg Stefanski, who are with Regreen Vermont, are going to share their story. And I have they were living in Evanston, Illinois, and then moved to Johnson, Vermont in 1999. And Declan graduated from Lamoille Union High School and has studied at Northern Vermont University, Florida International University, Odyssey Yoga, and Carme Choling. And in 2019, Declan founded Regreen Vermont, a food scrap collection business with Greg and with Lucas Queiroz. And Declan has said that this business is about encouraging positive change in the community and the worlds around him, and is a fan not only of the practice of composting, but also the philosophy behind the art of composting. And they're hoping through their business to help the world learn more about this and other mindful agricultural practices. So thanks so much, Declan and Greg.
Thank you, Emma. So we have our little slide, and I'm actually going to let my dad take the lead on talking us into it. Dad, are you there?
I am here. So can you see the slides okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So thank you very much. I appreciate having the opportunity to be with you all today, and want to just share a little bit about the work that Declan and I have been doing with Regreen VT, really focused on food scrap collection and also compost delivery here in Lamoille County. And so where it began for us, and Declan and I'll do a little tag teaming here, so hopefully this will work smoothly for folks. If it's not, just let us know. But it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I was shredding some leaves, had started just doing my own composting at home with food scraps and the shredded leaves. I think at the time I was using a riding lawnmower that was busted, and so I had to ride it backwards to ride over the leaves to shred them. It was a pretty rough operation, but it got me thinking about composting, and I was hearing about Act 148 and had the thought that maybe there was an opportunity to do something on a larger scale, to do something in the community, and to do something as a business. And then fast forward to the summer and fall of last year, and Declan, I'll let you pick it up from here.
Yeah, so in the fall of last year, Lucas and I were just kind of playfully discussing what possible business ventures we could pursue. And my dad previously had just kind of thrown ideas out kind of in his own thinking of potential compost businesses, compost pickup, compost hauling. And I mean, the discussion initially all around was pretty playful, and I don't think it held a lot of weight. But in Lucas and I's youth, we were just kind of very gung-ho and really looking for something to fill our time. And so we just kind of threw that idea up in the air, and then very quickly like, okay, well, let's go talk to my dad about it. Let's see if we can make that happen. And so that is kind of how we began, with just this this playful idea, which very quickly turned into a much more dynamic and complex thing when we realized that you can't just become a composting service overnight. And so, and Dad, I can think you can speak more to that.
Sure. So we were collecting a lot of leaves. A friend Lily there in the last picture was helping out. And the thought at the time was that we would try to do some kind of a composting facility on our property on Main Street in Johnson. So we had a lot of enthusiasm and not a lot of knowledge about how this all worked. And fortunately, we were able to make a great connection with the Lamoille Regional Solid Waste Management District. Ellie Ventura, who I believe is on with us here. And Ellie is in charge of outreach and education and training and supporting our whole community around recycling, but was really helpful for our team and just helping provide information and helping us figure out, what might be involved as far as, being a facility. And I think it was, this training that happened about a year ago, and it was quite a stormy day that preceded this training, but it was a great opportunity for us to learn about the whole process of composting, and also to recognize that we did not want to set up a compost facility behind our house on Main Street in Johnson. Declan, anything you want to add about that?
It was a very good reality check, and I can only imagine that this goes for pretty much any small starting up business, but there are often very big reality checks on how much it actually takes to either start a facility, and even when we did choose to downgrade into exclusively hauling, or not downgrade, but shift our focus, that hauling still calls for so many more things than we could have ever imagined.
Yeah. Definitely give Jen a lot of kudos and credit for being able to set up that full operation, because this training just was a real eye-opener in terms of the almost daily attention that's needed. And Declan and I both have other work responsibilities, so this was sort of a hobby side project, and we realized that a compost facility deserves much more attention. So as Declan mentioned, we decided to shift our focus to hauling and partnering with Lamoille Soil. So we're very fortunate in the Johnson community to have a really state-of-the-art composting facility that was built about 20 years ago through a partnership with the town, and then was, from our understanding, it was up and running for a couple of years, and then it was shut down for about 15 years, and was relaunched a few years ago, thanks to the Lamoille Regional Solid Waste Management District. And so reinvigorating those partnerships with the town. And so we had right in Johnson a state-of-the-art facility that was processing items. The challenge was how to get food scraps to them. And so Lucas and Declan and I thought we could step in. And so in December of 2019, we had gathered some buckets thanks to Cabot Creamery and their jalapeno cheese, which means that they need jalapenos that get delivered in 5-gallon buckets, but then don't need those. So we were able to get a few loads of 5-gallon buckets and started hauling just within the town of Johnson. We started collecting in December. It took us a while with a very small customer base of just a couple of people to actually fill up a tote and be ready for our first tipping. And so this here is a shot of us with our good friend Chris Duff over at Lamoille Soil. He's got this great tipping device. And so it took us a couple of months to finally fill up a 48-gallon tote with the scraps that we had picked up from household customers. And so we had our first tipping there in February. Declan, can you hear me all right?
Yep, sorry, I lost you for a second.
Anything you want to add there, Declan, about our collection or tipping?
Yeah, I mean, do you remember how many weeks it took us to fill the first tote?
I think it was about 2 months.
Yeah, so definitely a snail start, you could say. But that, I mean, it was helpful to be able to really have things that slow so we could look at each detail and what was happening and how the process would actually play out on a larger scale with kind of some breathing room. And so, yeah, nice slow start.
Yeah,
Really
it was very intentional to just focus on the town of Johnson initially, and really just relying on word of mouth and our connection with Ellie and the Solid Waste Management District. But things did start to pick up a bit. We were adding on more residential customers. And as Jen mentioned, we had the same scenario of kind of 50-50 split with people who were looking for weekly pickup and people who were looking for bi-weekly pickup. And then we also started getting inquiries from condominium associations, apartments, and other what we were calling for us small-scale commercial setups that were going to need a 48-gallon tote at their location. We also saw the opportunity to be a delivery agent for finished compost that was coming out of Lamoille Soil, and also some other commercial landscaping companies in our area that produce compost. And I really think that the Regreen VT was very much about Declan just wanting to get a truck, and this was a great avenue for doing that. So in May, we were able to pick up a used dump truck. Declan, you want to say anything about the truck?
Well, I definitely was very gung-ho about the truck. Unfortunately, when we got the truck, soon into the ownership of the truck, we found that maybe there were some more problems with it than we were initially informed. And yeah, I think that's been a good practice in maybe committing to something and investing in something to discover that maybe it's not quite as helpful as you had hoped. And we've been met with that a couple of times. What's neat is it has been a bit of a challenge with the truck, and we had a particularly rotted frame, which doesn't really fly in Vermont. But it's also what the doors that the truck opened up in terms of delivery and pickup. It's really what we have put a lot of weight on for our ability to expand. So
And so what that has meant in May, the timing worked out well, as especially this May, with a lot of people looking to, having more time at home due to coronavirus and not maybe being at work as much. We certainly saw there was quite a spike in interest in home gardening and flower beds, and that folks wanted to make sure that they had a good rich compost to be able to support those gardens and beds. And so this is a shot here of the Lamoille soil facility. You can see all the various bays that have been established. And if you look in the way back, you see a little yellow spot that helps clean out any of the larger items that don't completely break down in the composting process. And so Declan and Lucas were able to make quite a few deliveries, primarily in May and June, until we got to the point where actually all of the finished compost that Lamoille Soil had processed had been used up. And so we're actually waiting for the next batches in case folks want to do some more of that. So here, I just wanted to highlight in terms of some of the successes, and Jen mentioned all the work. There's sort of the direct service side of this, which is the trucks and the buckets and the 48-gallon bins and setting a schedule for picking up and then tipping. But there's just also the business side of our operation. That's also been an incredible learning experience, and getting set up as an LLC and getting various insurances. Our haulers, our permit actually, that Jen mentioned, setting up bank accounts. And the enthusiasm was for the composting work. There hasn't been as much enthusiasm and excitement about the business elements, but we also recognize that if we didn't have those things in place, our business wasn't going to be sustainable. As has been mentioned a few times, the partnership with our local solid waste district and Lamoille Soil has been absolutely critical to our success. And it's just been great to have, Jen mentioned having sort of a business mentor. In a lot of ways, Ellie and her team have played that role for us, and provided guidance. And we've actually done very little advertising, a few front porch forum posts about compost delivery, but in terms of food scrap collection, we really haven't done any advertising, and most of the connections have been people calling the solid waste district and asking for recommendations. So a lot of growth. We started with 3 customers as we moved into January, jumped up to 13 by the end of April, and by the end of July we had 55. Certainly Act 148 implementation, we saw a strong connection there. As we mentioned, we initially started in the town of Johnson. As of today, we have customers in all of the towns of Lamoille County except for Eden. So we'll see if we pick up anything there. And as of the end of July, looking at about a ton per week of food scraps that we are collecting and delivering to Lamoille Soil. And lastly, in terms of a success, we've worked very diligent, and Declan was really passionate about community awareness and education. And so I'll let him tell you about the picture in this slide and some of the other things that we've done to try to promote broad awareness.
Yeah, so this specifically was in winter, as we were still in our beginning stages. This was just a promotional opportunity. We basically set up a table with some snacks and hot cocoa, and just tried to get the word out in person, which has been a huge part of, I think, our success, is making that person-to-person connection. And right there in that specific picture, I'm speaking with one of our little compost buddies, very enthusiastic customer of ours. And I think that's something that, as we are becoming more established, we're really starting to look into, is the educational piece of this process. And I think what is helpful about the educational piece is oftentimes when a law like this gets put into place, there's lots of confusion, and lots of people will do it because it is the law now and it is what they have to do.
Declan, I think we lost your audio. Looks like
I think my
oh,
connection.
now you're back.
I'm back. So as I was saying, the educational piece is important because it gives a why for a lot of people who are doing it because they know they're supposed to, but aren't completely aware of what the benefits are and what the purpose is behind it. And so that's what we are now hoping to be able to give a bit more time to, is the educational piece.
And we also, Declan and Lucas, there was a soccer tournament in Johnson, and we were asked to provide food scrap collection at the event. And so, and have been invited to a few community events to bring the buckets, bring information, which has really been helpful. And certainly there have been some challenges as we've been on this journey for the last year. We found, it's one thing to start a business, it's another thing to maintain a business. So cash flow and billing, we have had some pretty significant investments that we've made, and you saw our numbers in terms of customers. And when you're getting $6 a week for a bucket and $21 a week for a 48-gallon tote, but you have insurance and loan payments, it's tough to make those numbers balance. And so we've had some challenges there, and just the record keeping and keeping track of all of the information related to our business functions. And, Declan and I are basically handling those things ourselves. And then marketing and advertising. And we've fortunately had some, Declan's cousin is a graphic design artist and has been able to help us. She helped us create our logo, which is the Vermont state vegetable. Hopefully you all know the Vermont state vegetable. And that's been wonderful, but we could be doing more. But at the same time, we also have wanted to pace ourselves, because if we had 500 customers at this point, we would just be absolutely overwhelmed. Other challenges, totes, getting the 48-gallon totes. Those became, I think, one of the hottest commodities as of July 1. And I don't know if we have any Billy Squire fans out there, but yeah, definitely we've been scrambling to find more totes. Maggots and bears. And our customers have had concerns on both fronts. So again, working with them to talk about ways to secure buckets and totes, or to have them in locations where critters can't get to them, and really encouraging the use of some kind of material, wood chips, sawdust. We use shredded leaves to cover up our buckets and especially our totes, to reduce bugs and maggots. But that's definitely been a hot topic. And then again, we have done some effort, have had some success with getting the word out in the community. Would love to be doing more of that, because we think that'll help us in terms of maximizing the collection and getting more food scraps diverted from landfills. So just want to, I guess, wrap up with some thank yous, especially to Natasha and Emma and the whole team of folks who've pulled together the VORS event. This has really been amazing. And Natasha and Emma, we just really appreciate your support. To all of our buddies at the Solid Waste District in Lamoille Soil, a big thank you to them. Lucas and Lily, who've been really important partners. And all of you folks who've showed up today to learn a little bit more about what we're doing. We're happy to share more information. And Declan, I'll give you the final word as I share our final slide with our contact info. And this was a special mission that we had, where an individual who was doing some home composting had a busted bin with rats and maggots, and called us up to see if we could help them address that. So again, thank you all, and Declan, I'll let you close it out.
Yeah, and like my dad said, thank you all. This is one of those opportunities where we're able to be in a space and kind of learn about what's going on together. And I mean, I have gotten so many things from our 2 other presentations today, lots of things to consider as a business, but also just things to consider as someone who is enthusiastic about composting and trying to get it more effectively spread into our communities. So yeah, just thank you all for being here.
Thank you both. We have 2 questions specific for this most recent presentation for Greg and Declan. Do you buy the compost from Lamoille? And then Tom's also wondering, do you pay them a tipping fee to drop off, and just wants to hear a little more about your relationship with the district?
Yeah. So is the question, do we buy the soil and then resell it?
Yeah, or are you just distributing for them, or?
So that's what we do. So with both Lamoille soil and the other facilities that we've worked with in terms of organic materials, we buy the material from them and then we resell it and we mark it up when it is things other than, oh no, we don't tax. So specifically with compost, we don't need to tax it. With everything else we have.
And then we charge a delivery fee. So there's a fee that we're paying to Lamoille Soil to get the compost. We add on sort of a handling fee plus the delivery, and then we do pay a tipping fee. So we collect the 5-gallon buckets. We fill as many 48-gallon totes, and then we bring those 48-gallon totes to Lamoille Soil, and we pay a fee to Lamoille Soil for the tipping of each of those 48-gallon totes.
And then what was the second question again?
If you just have anything else you want to add about your relationship with the district.
Just that it's been absolutely wonderful because so many of the questions in our community have gone to them, in general about composting and about what people can do. And so they've just been a great, and then they connect people to us if people are looking for having their scraps picked up if they don't want to do it at home. And just have been an incredible connection to all of the state resources at A&R DEC and other partners across the state. So they've just been amazing connectors.
Good, you fleshed out my plug for connecting with the district. There's one more question specific for you folks. You said at the beginning it took a long time to fill a toter, which folks know can cause more issues with odors and maggots. And they're wondering how long you have a toter now that your business has grown.
We have, the totes at this point only last a week. And what we've been doing to kind of consolidate space is we have a couple customers with 48-gallon totes that we pick up on weekly and as needed.
Oh, I think we lost your audio again, Declan. I can jump in and mention. So, and I'm sorry, can you just repeat the question?
How long do you have how long does it take you to fill a tote now? So then
Yeah, so we collect on Saturday mornings, and usually by Tuesday we're delivering the totes to Chris. So it's just a matter of a few days. But yeah, initially we had a couple of months, and what helped us there was that was in January and February, so we didn't have to worry about smells too much. And then as we added more customers, especially in April, then we got on a little more frequent schedule of maybe waiting a couple of weeks. But for the past couple of months, it's just a matter of a few days that we have those, and that's where the shredded leaves come in very handy to reduce bugs and other visitors.
Well, thank you both. And thanks to all our presenters. I'm going to invite Jen and Deborah to join us again so that we have everybody available. And if anyone in the any of the attendees have questions, now is a great time to put them in the chat, and we'll have time for a few questions. And so we'll start by going back to that question from before. Someone's wondering how much of a budget should go towards marketing. What are your thoughts on that? And any of you should feel free to chime in.
Jen, do you want to share first? I think you've spent more money than we have.
Yeah, I guess I kind of, when I had the idea of this compost business at first, when we moved to this area, I was like, I think it's too rural. It wouldn't make any sense. And then, because we were living up in Lyme when we first moved here, and then coming to Wilder, I kind of realized that there were so many neighborhoods, and it actually, people weren't composting in their own yards. So that was kind of the first part, is just trying to get a few people in each neighborhood. And I think people noticed the buckets out on the side of the street and kind of inquire. I haven't done any of the yard signs, but I think that might be a good idea to give to neighbors. I have done a few kind of referral benefits. So if you can get a neighbor or a friend to start, then there's a little, you get a little gift or something. So trying to, keep getting as many people in a smaller area is helpful to make the routes make sense.
I guess I'd just say, in terms of, marketing, I think there are a lot of options that are pretty cheap. Like I said, we used Front Porch Forum as a way to get the message out about compost delivery. We haven't really spent any other money, but we are going to be purchasing postcards because there's a question about the density, and Lamoille County is a pretty big area, and 55 customers on the one hand is a lot, but when you think about an entire county, it's not very much. So we are doing, in some cases we're driving a few miles from one customer, to the other. And so we've identified some, especially Village and Main Street areas, that we're going to be doing some targeted outreach. And we're going to be purchasing some postcards, I think somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 or $300 to get 500 or 1,000 postcards. And because we want to do some very targeted outreach to build up between some of these places where we have long traveling right now, because that's mileage that we're paying, and gas and wear and tear on the vehicle, and time for folks who are doing the pickups, but with very little that we're getting on the revenue side. So we're going to be targeting a few areas. And so we'll, this year, I think in total, we'll maybe spend $1,000, if that, for marketing. And it's primarily going to be on these postcards.
I could add a comment. Email marketing can be very inexpensive, and I think most people today have an iPhone and an email address. It's a great way just to at least get your feet wet with marketing and trying to promote your programs. Certainly, doing the print material like postcards or door hangers and posters and things like that are good. But they do get lost. They do get a little worn out if they're exposed to weather. So, a great way, is really to try to use email marketing. And if your county or municipality has a website, I think Emma even mentioned that the state has, some good references. It'd be great just to utilize what the DEC offers, and try to lift all boats, I think is what Emma, you said earlier.
Thank you all. Jen, Ted is wondering why you didn't end up using compostable liners.
There's actually a couple reasons. We were using bio bags, like 8-gallon liners in the bins at first, and I wasn't sure if they'd break down in my 3-bin system, but we kind of experimented, and they took a long time. I think there's still some in there. And I was also noticing that in the bi-weekly, the bags really were breaking down at that point, and I still had to wash those buckets almost as much as when I didn't line them. So then the third thing is once I partnered with the farm, Sunrise Farm is an organic farm, and he isn't able to take any compostable plastics in his compost. So it kind of just worked out that we weren't using them anyways. And so my technique is I got a, it's actually a nice, it's like a bread spatula. It's from King Arthur, and it like really wipes the buckets clean pretty well when I dump it. And then I am able to just do a rinse, and then I do a warm water wash of all the buckets at the end. But, so.
And I'll just mention, I noticed when I first saw Jen and looking over her shoulder and seeing her buckets and her ladders, and again, being a small operation, you know, with maybe 40 buckets or so on a weekly basis, we used an extension ladder set up on a couple of pallets and put the buckets in so that they're sort of lying flat but elevated off the ground. And then we have a power washer. And it allows us to go down and take care of about 15 buckets at a time. You get soaked, but the buckets get clean, and then they don't get sort of the pick up the dirt from the ground. So ladders can be a great source of help with cleaning.
That's a good idea. You have to send me a video of that or something.
Okay. Absolutely.
I'll just say out loud for folks who are attending, if you're want to get some tips, there's some suggestions in the chat also you can look at. Well, we only have 1 minute left, so maybe lightning round that you can pass if that's too stimulating. Do you have like any advice if somebody's thinking about, do I want to get into food scrap hauling or composting or community composting? What would you thoughts be?
Guess I'll just mention find a partner or a buddy, whether that's on the business side or whether that's on understanding dealing with organics materials, unless you have a lot of direct experience, but also then when you take it to a larger scale, you just encounter some new things. So having partners has been absolutely essential for us.
Yeah, I think that is great advice too. The partnership that I made with the farm, because I really didn't want to be doing the hauling and all of the composting. So kind of being able to break up some of the labor and the jobs is nice. So I can just kind of dump it and leave it, and the rest is taken care of. So that, yeah, building partnerships is great.
Yeah. And I can echo that regarding partnerships and really communicating to all stakeholders that would be involved, from the communities that you're servicing, your residents, just thinking of it from point to point. Anybody who would be involved with the touching or the use of the material is really important. So it's that partner or buddy system's important.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing your stories. Very exciting and inspiring. And Natasha, did you have some wrap up?
Yeah, no, thank you all again. Just a quick reminder that at the end of the webinar series this week, you all will be getting a survey via email. So if you can just take a minute to fill that out and so I can get that feedback, that would be great. And then as well, just a reminder that there's another webinar this afternoon and one more tomorrow afternoon. So we hope you can join us. Thank you again, everybody, Emma, all the presenters, and all of the participants.
Thanks, everybody.